you man enough to be educated? Let me be the first to say, you are. Men are definitely capable of being educated. God has given us the gift of knowledge, of wisdom, and of understanding. And all we have to do is accept it. Tune in next time to find out for yourself that you are man enough to be educated. But until then, may God's blessings be with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a blessing to have you back on our third episode of Man Enough. We have a big topic to discuss today. Last time on Man Enough, we looked at the topic being man enough to be a provider. Man enough to be a provider. And just a short recap, last time we learned that providing is not limited to just bringing in finances or possessions into the home. As a man, providing entails giving spiritual guidance, emotional and mental support to wife, to children. And providing should be seen as you giving your entire being to your family, just as Christ would have given his entire being to the church. We also learn that single men have a duty to provide as well, providing service to the church and to the community, providing support to younger men in society, etc. Elder Raul Leslie and Elder Kevin George graced us with their presence, and we were tremendously blessed. And today we're looking at the topic being man enough to be educated. Man enough to be educated. And with us today we have Dr. Kern, Tobias, and we have Elder Drason Browne, two mighty men of God. Just to give you a little introduction of who these individuals are, Dr. Kern Tobias currently resides in Trinidad and Tobago. He holds a bachelor's in theology, master's in religion, and a doctorate of ministry in family ministry. He has been in ministry since he was called in 1979. He has served as district pastor, publishing director, president of the South Caribbean Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and now he is the president of the Caribbean Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and also he serves as chairman of the board of directors of the University of the Southern Caribbean. He's married to the beautiful, talented sister Linda Tobias, and they have 3 adult children together and 1 grandchild. He loves gardening, cooking, table tennis, and meeting new people. He's a strong advocate for Christian education as he's a product of it, healthy living and happy families. And he is proud to say that he is blessed to have a stable family. Dr. Tobias is indeed a servant of God and a friend to man. Amen. We give God praise for having you with us, Dr. Kern Tobias. We also have with us Elder Drason Browne. He's from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and he's also currently residing in Trinidad and Tobago. And at the University of the Southern Caribbean in Trinidad, he is the director of university services. He is also a product of Christian education, as he would have gone to the University of the Southern Caribbean to do his bachelor's in education and also his master's in education leadership. He was an above average student as he graduated with a 3.94 GPA, and he also graduated as class valedictorian in 2015. So as I mentioned, he has a bachelor's in education, a master's in education leadership, a master's in business administration, and he's currently undergoing his Doctor of Education degree. You can see that this man loves education, as he is an educator at the heart. He absolutely enjoys motivating and inspiring young people, may I add young men, as he meets them and as he upholds his favorite quotation penned by Maya Angelo, and I quote, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that quote takes him through in terms of his ministry and motivating individuals. We are so very grateful to have you as well, Elder Drason Browne, a good brother and friend of mine, and also Dr. Kern Tobias, a man who continues to inspire me as well. Just greet the people, say hello to the people. We'll start with you, Dr. Tobias. Just saying hello.
Well, hello, hi. It's great to be on this show. The third edition of it, but I have to say it's very impacting. I saw the last one and was very impressed with what's happening. So it's great to be on this show. Welcome, all men and women.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tobias. Thank you so much for your support as well. And Elder Browne, saying hello to the people.
Well, greetings, everybody. It's always a privilege to travel without a ticket. I'm happy to be in Dominica again, and I know that we will have an excellent time today. I'm so happy that I will be given the opportunity, first time ever, which I count to be a joy and a privilege, to discuss a topic with the President of the Union. So it will be an excellent treat for each and every one of us. Welcome.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much again for being here today and gracing us with your presence, both of you. All right, time to get the ball rolling as we delve into this topic. Man enough to be educated. Man enough to be educated. Now, we need to set the context for this discussion. We really need to do that. And so the first question that I would like to throw at you guys is in a few sentences, what does education mean to you? Give us the context. I don't know who wants to start. I'll let you guys decide.
Well, education means the receiving or dissemination of knowledge, of information. It really has to do with one's lifespan. There is always something to learn. And so there is a formal state of education and the informal state of education. Formal, we go to school, like as Drason, I mean, fortunately, he came to Trinidad and he has distinguished himself. Had it not been for that formal structure, I may never have got to know such a great man, And of course, I like the way Ellen White puts it. It says that education is the harmonious development of the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual powers. So in the context of education, we are seeing this as a lifelong experience of receiving and sharing information and knowledge.
Deep stuff, Doc. Deep stuff. Elder Browne, what have you to say? What to you is education?
I think it's very difficult to ask educators to give a short definition of education. It's very difficult. But nonetheless, if you span throughout history and you look at so many philosophers who would have given their input pertaining to education, you realize almost all of them had a common theme. Like quickly, for example, Aristotle believed that education involves the process of training the man to fulfill his aims in life, whatever those might be. And then you have persons like John Dewey, who believe that education is about growth. And then you have, for example, somebody like Gandhi, who I love very much. He said, education is a process for training the hand, the heart, and also the head. And I believe he borrowed those same words, as Dr. Tobias said, from our very own Ellen G. White. I believe he borrowed those words. Now, please forgive me if he didn't, but I strongly believe he did, because Ellen G. White said, and I need to emphasize it, that true education means more than pursuing a certain course of study. It has to do with the whole person and with the whole period of existence possible to human beings. It is a harmonious development of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual powers. And of course, if I had the ability to read what everybody said, I was able to put my own definition on paper. So I would like to share my definition. This is from Drason 2021. And it says here that education is the continuous development of one's mental, emotional, spiritual, physical faculties needed for him to comprehend first, embrace second, accomplish his signature purpose on this earth, preparing him to live beyond this earth. That is what I think education is. So it's all about growth.
My word, you guys are already starting heavy as we're just getting into this discussion, man. So education is not only about going to school to get a degree. We see that both you, Pastor Tobias, and Drason, Elder Drason, we see both you and both of you have education in terms of formal education. You have your bachelor's, you have your master's, you have your doctorate, or you're getting your doctorate, but that does not entail or totally encompass what it really means to be educated, just getting a degree. It's more than that. And so if that is what you both are saying, it leads me to my next question then. Is there ever a point where one can truly say that they are educated? Like if so, what is the rubric? What is the criteria for one being considered to be educated? I don't know who wants to take a jab at that question. I'll again leave it up to the two of you.
Well, I would say that depending on the context, because a person may see his purpose in life as being an educator, or let's say a teacher, and one has gone through the disciplines as Drason has been able to do. You know, he's just one step away from the highest level of academic attainment in the study of education. And but even though one may be a professor, have a doctor in like I have in family ministry, there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to learn. So whilst one can say, okay, I have achieved the requirements or the prerequisites for this particular discipline, one cannot really say that there's nothing more to learn. One would be a fool to say, I have learned all that I can learn and there's nothing more to learn. But one can be competent, one can be proficient, and one can indeed achieve his purpose while continuing to grow or continuing to learn.
Definitely. There's always something to learn. I see, Elder Drason, that you're in agreement with what Dr. Tobias is saying. What have you to say?
I totally agree. But again, you know, Dr. Tobias would have been there. He went through the different stages of learning. He has his PhD. So definitely he's correct. And I'm sure bet he's still learning today.
Still learning. This afternoon, Pastor Tittle gave me a good lecture lesson on how to have a whole new platform, virtual platform. So thank you, Pastor Tittle.
Correct. But I think what happened, Pastor Tittle, is that, you know, being educated is so important because a lot of persons really do not understand what it is to be educated. A lot of people think about just the formal aspect of education. Education goes beyond the formal aspect. As a matter of fact, I love how Chomsky put it. I really love this way. Chomsky said, when talking about being truly educated, remember there's a difference between truly educated and fully educated. We will never be fully educated, but we can be truly educated. A physicist once said in his class, it's not important what we cover, it's what we discover. And in life, we continue to discover. So when it comes to being truly educated, it means that one will know, understand many things, and more than just knowing or having that information stored, one will be able to know where to look, know how to look, know how to ask those relevant questions, know how to bring that challenge, know how to proceed independently, know how to deal with the challenges. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. It is saying that when you're truly educated, that means you now have the tools and the requirements to get almost any and everything done. Let me give you a perfect example in the realm of formal education. Now, I hated science in school. I really hated science. Chemistry was literally my worst of all subjects. And I remember my cousin had some information she wanted pertaining to chemistry, and I hated it. But I told myself, listen, you are an educator. You don't have to pass chemistry or know chemistry that much in school in order for you to apply the tools that you have developed now to help your cousin. And I went with that approach, and I was able to teach my cousin in such a way. She said, hey, I think you should come to our school and teach chemistry. She never knew my fear about chemistry. But when you're truly educated, you're in a position now that you can apply to the point where people might think that you are a master of what you are doing. That it is to me when you are truly educated. However, we will never be fully educated. There is always something to learn.
Deep stuff, deep stuff. Always something to learn. I love that. I love that. We're about to discuss another question. The question is, studies suggest that women are more interested in formally educating themselves than men. What do you think of this statement? Do you agree or disagree? Why or why not? And we're going to discuss this question right after our break.
English-speaking unions are on the march towards breaking the evangelistic glass ceiling. By the power of the Holy Spirit, the providence of God in our lives leaves us with no choice but to preach, to baptize, and to retain more of the gains. Every member is ready to do more for God. Every member working 2 by 2 in 2022 to baptize 2. We will go.
I will go where you lead me. I will go where you lead me. Who will go for us? I will go. I will go where you lead me. I will go where you lead me. Here am I. Send me, Lord. I will go.
And we are back as we have gotten to our 3rd episode of Man Enough. We are so grateful to be here today. And with us today again, we have Dr. Kern, Tobias, and Elder Drason Browne, as we are discussing the topic being man enough to be educated. Man enough to be educated. And thus far, we have learned so much. We have been educating ourselves today, if you please. And we're about to discuss another question. The question says, studies suggest that women are more interested in formally educating themselves than men. What do you think of this statement? Do you agree, disagree? Why or why not? We'll start with you, Dr. Tobias, and then we'll go to Elder Drason Browne.
Well, culture says that if there is a disadvantaged sector of society, there is a certain resilience, there's a certain passion, to prove that we can make it. And women have found themselves in that scenario. 20th century, there has always been that challenge. Women were always seen as working at home, and it began to change in the latter part of the 20th century, especially with the advent of the women's rights, where women are trying to prove themselves that they can make it. And so that drive has really helped them to if possible, be equal to men academically, or even surpass men. While the brothers, the men, we have had the experience of our fathers and our uncles and people who we know, the leaders in the church, the pastors. They are the ones who have displayed academic prowess, and there has been a reversal, a reversing of the trend where men are not as excited about education as women. Not that more women are being educated than men, but just that the ratio, is significantly increasing on the side of women. You just play the advertisement there about breaking the glass ceiling, and that really has gender implications. Where women have strived over years to become directors and managers and CEOs, and it took a lot of effort, and that momentum that women have had to struggle to attain some significance academically, that momentum has propelled them into an ascendancy. And so even though there may be more men educated than women, the trends are that there are more women percentage-wise of the women population who are excited about education. And so this is a very pertinent and relevant question, and I think we would spend a little time talking to this, because so many of our young men are finding themselves satisfied with so little when the sisters are really pushing ahead, and these same sisters have to look amongst these men for husbands. So there's a big challenge there, and so it's a discussion that we can get into a little bit this afternoon, because I think this is a very significant nerve point, a nerve ending that we need to treat with.
Yes, definitely. I see, Elder Browne, that you're burning to say what you have to say. So share with us.
I was about to say, I think Dr. Tobias looked at my notes. But that is so true. I mean, I totally agree with all that he would have said. And what I need to add to this is this. Because of what is currently happening, it is now a louder message out there for the young men to get our acts together. If we realize that the women are driving this education train, we need to actually make sure that we are in that same train, because Dr. Tobias said something which is very pertinent. That is worth that emphasis, that re-emphasis, is this. We are, a lot of men, we are losing that grip of our roles simply because some of us have taken ourselves from the education train because we don't see the value of it anymore. And because of that, when you remove yourself from that, the ladies would have taken up those seats and they are going fast ahead with those with that seat. You're on that train and we are behind. And so when marriage comes into effect now, you realize that both parties are so far from each other when it comes to making decisions, and it comes to basically reasoning in a particular basic aspect. Why? Because men feel as though that, hey, education is not really for me anymore. And I've spoken to a lot of young men who felt that, listen, if I can just get a job and make money, that's all I need to do. That's not all, because education gives us more than what we think. You understand? Education gives us more than what we think. So I totally agree. The ladies have been taking it. They're running fast with it. The ladies, as I said, they have been suppressed for all of these years. They have been suppressed, and now they have seen a light. They have seen that light, and they have never, ever, ever, ever hidden that light under the bushel low. They are running with it. So this is a call. This is a wake-up call to our gentlemen. We can do better, and we must do better. And also further, what I realized too is that when we reach the point of actually reading things like what you asked about women showing more interest or whether man showing more interest, which of course it doesn't really matter which angle. But when we reach at that point, the question is asked, what is happening in the homes? What is happening in the homes in terms of the role of the man? What is he teaching when it comes to education? Is he showing the child that education is important and valuable? What is he practicing when it comes to education? How does he display? What mannerism does he display when it comes to education? And all of these things, because most of the time children firstly want to become like their parents. And if this thing is not practiced at home, if it is not shown like there's interest or there is joy in me as a man being an educated person, then the young boy might not see the importance or need of becoming educated. And so I think the home as well, it tells a lot about the leaders of the home, the men of the home, and what they're putting out there.
And as this has been mentioned, Dr. Tobias, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to highlight that point that Drason has made, because I almost slipped into that stream of just trying to get a job, because I had bigger brothers who were masons, and I wanted to be a mason. I wanted to be a mason badly, because it was so fashionable to me, But I went to this Adventist school with few children. So my younger sister and myself were in the same class. And when the exam came, my younger sister came first. And I came down into the other numbers. But when I went home, my family, I mean, they laughed me to scorn. How you could allow your younger sister to beat you, and that light that Drason spoke about lit up in my mind. I realized I have to start to do my homework and start to learn my work, because I couldn't afford to allow her to beat me the next term. And fortunately for my manhood as a boy, as a teenager, I was able to beat her that next term. And for me, that was the catalyst that allowed me to get into education. So what Drason is saying there is critical. The family has a big role to play in how men assess and assume that critical role that education has to play in us being well, the head. That's what God said, being leaders in our homes and in society and the church and whatever. So that was, I just barely missed it. Had I not a younger sister, I may have just been unknown. I may have been a very good contractor or whatever, but that was for me a turning point in my whole academic life.
Thanks so much for sharing your experience. But as you're mentioning some things, it makes me want to ask another question. All right, we're talking about history in terms of how women were held back from the level of education that they're now exposed to, or they now have a privilege of gauging into. But then I have a question, and I don't know if maybe Drason could answer it better because of his vast background in education. But could it be that the education system is tailored more for women than men? You know how women are different than men. Men are more hands-on and all them kind of different things. But as we see the education system today, does it suggest that the education system is tailored more for the women than the men? If so, what can we do about this? If that's not the case, then what's the problem with our men and formal education?
That's a very good question. I sat down and I actually thought about that. And you know what came to mind? I strongly believe that the education system has basically always been the same. I think what is happening is this: because society realized that we have been losing interest in formal education, society is not going out with the banner that says, let's stop educating our children. What society is doing now, society is channeling the energies into areas of interest. And if, for example, you have the ladies who are more interested in certain areas, they're channeling their energies there. First, remember, in society, education is a political ticket. And politics has with it a numbers game. So if I can benefit the mass, then I can secure my seat. If the mass of the persons are female and they want this form of education, then I will do that. But the reality is, I strongly believe that the education system has been what it has always been. I think there is indeed an argument that the men need to be more skilled. I think both parties need to be given more opportunities where they can use their skills even on a wider basis. But I think it's the basic subjects that we know about years ago that we are still working with today. Even in high school, for the Pastor Tittle, you have a level where children basically go into areas of interest. Ladies can go and do home economics if they want, or you have other soft skill that they can develop, but you have schools that have woodwork. And they have other areas in terms of that can, quote unquote, develop what the man desires. But what is happening to the Tittle? Look at what is happening today. The woodwork class does not have men only anymore. Sometimes you have more women going into the same woodwork class, the same mechanic class, the same architectural class. These were classes that men gravitated to. But are we giving them still? Yes. But who are occupying these classes? Women. Who are showing interest in these classes? Women. So the problem is not so much what is given. The problem is, and I always say, it has to start at home. What is our mindset pertaining to education? And plenty gentlemen really do not believe that formal education makes sense. And I'm not sure where they're getting that from, but if I believe strongly it's from the home, because if I am a leader at home and I am displaying to my sons the importance of education, I believe they will catch it and move on with it. You understand? But if you have more men who are uneducated becoming fathers and leaders of the home, they can only give what they have. And what you have will be who you are. So that's how I see it. I think the problem is, we have to just get ourselves up and go again.
Also, but I agree with Drason there. But we know that that women, girls have a tendency to read more. And with the advent of technology, with all the gadgets and the many distractions, things that can be helpful, but they can also be hurtful, to the image and development of a young person. So that the ability to read and comprehend, is critical. And so, and we have to find a way to get our brothers reading a little more, because reading is what develops the mind. Remember, we say it's the comprehensive development of the mind. The physical, the spiritual, the emotional, the social, and so whilst the education system is the same and everybody has the same opportunity, if a person does not have that mental development that predisposes him or her, to see those opportunities and to use those opportunities, there is significant, disruption in the process, that growth process. And so it means parents really spending a little more time saying, you can't spend all this time on the gadgets. You have to pick up a book, read and develop holistically.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for sharing, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. We have been looking at the rippling effects of men not educating themselves, how it can affect the home and society at large. But I want us to leave here today as men knowing the benefits When we're preaching the gospel, Pastor Tobias, we're preaching the benefits of the gospel to attract individuals. We don't want to only focus on the negative aspect. So then we're going to discuss what are the benefits of men educating themselves, and we're going to be discussing this right after our break.
Temple School upon the hill, built according to God's will. Come to the Temple Seventh-day Adventist Primary School, where we endeavor, by God's grace, to provide a balanced educational program for all our students. In a spacious environment, in tune with the vast greenery of nature. With caring and dedicated teachers who go the extra mile to assist their students. The core subjects, Bible, language arts, mathematics, science, and social science, are thoroughly covered in addition to subjects like ICT, French, music, and agriculture. These are all presented in a Christocentric manner as students are led to fostering and building a close relationship with Christ. All of these are also presented along with electives which are geared at forging the holistic development of the child, head, heart, and hand. Come join us at Temple, where there is a close bond between the home and the school, between parents and teachers. Where Christ's name is lifted up through weeks of prayer and daily worship and prayer sessions. Where teachers, students, parents are united for the purpose of educating for now and for eternity. Where our students gain a solid academic foundation as they prepare for their life after primary school. Where we work, pray, and play together.
Come join us at Temple.
Welcome back to our third episode of Man Enough. We have been today discussing the topic, being man enough to be educated. And with us again, we have Dr. Kern Tobias and Elder Drason Browne. We've been having such a good discussion this afternoon, such a heavy and deep discussion, but we have been enjoying ourselves and we have definitely been learning. Our next question is, what are the benefits of men educating themselves? We know the negative effects, we know the rippling effects, but what are the benefits? What kind of society, what kind of church, what kind of home can we see when men take up the mantle to educate themselves? I will allow either Dr. Kern Tobias or Drason, you guys decide which one of you wants to go first and we'll talk.
Okay, I can go first. I see Dr. Tobias, looking at me. Now, well, first and foremost, Cadique, there are plenty benefits. And if we start tonight, we might have to extend this program for hours, but I'm only going to give you a few. And you know why I believe that there are plenty benefits? Because it shows why, more importantly, it shows why men definitely need to get on this education train. The first benefit that I have here, it builds our confidence and self-concept. A lot of us don't understand who we are. We don't know what triggers our negative feedback or output when something happens to us. We don't know these things. We don't really know what we like. We don't know what we really enjoy. And so when we are educated, it builds our self-concept and it also builds our confidence. You will be able to stand up and you'll be able to share what you know. And you'll be confident in sharing what you know. So you don't have to second guess whether or not I am reaching my children or whether or not I am reaching the community with whatever information I want to put out there. Education helps with that. Education also helps with helping us to enjoy our purpose as a man. Enjoy our purpose as a man. And I would like to say our purpose hinge to the roles that God has given to us as men. God still honors our role as, if we're a husband, father, to be the priest, the provider, and the protector. When you are educated, you will know the essential importance of that priestly role. And you will not just know about it, because I think too many times, Pastor Cadique, that a lot of us know about being a priest, but we don't understand how to be the priest. And so education will teach us how to be that priest. And being a priest is more than bringing the children to the altar. Being a priest starts with the priest himself honoring the relationship that he has with God. So he gets up in the morning, he has his own devotion first. He set the tone and pace for him first before he can represent God to his children. So all of these things, that is what education does. And by the way, let me put this in quickly. Now we have the president with us. I think we can educate, find a way to educate the men of the church on how to become, or how to be an effective priest, how to be an effective provider, how to be an effective protector. You cannot protect your children, you cannot protect your family if you're not educated. Somebody might say, but I have been protecting mine and I am not educated. The question is, were you really protecting them? Were you? How do you deal with your children who is suffering with an attachment or a nasty habit using the cell phone? If you do not understand technology, you don't even know what the internet is all about, how do you help that child? How do you relate? So education is important. How do you deal with a very intellectually based wife who wants to sit down and just have a conversation with you, basically on a decision she has to make at work? How will you deal with that? So education is important. And, you know, I'm just going to give two more, then I'm going to pass on to Tobias, Dr. Tobias, because as I said, there are many. Now, education also increases standard and value of life. We become more productive when we are educated. When we are educated, it helps us also to become more marketable, to be more marketable. And let me tell you something. We know well that the love of money is the root of all evil. We know that, but money is important. Money is needed for the family development. There's so many things that money is attached to. And when you have that education, you can actually step into the market at higher levels. Look at Dr. Tobias, who gave up just being an ordinary skills man, and look at who he is today, the president of the entire Caribbean Union. And I'm sure that he didn't see that coming, but he would have chosen the route to educate himself so that he can become even more than what he even thought of himself. And finally, I would like to say this one, which is close to my heart. When we are educated, we develop the ability to make wise choices. We develop the ability. God gave us that free gift of choice. And in order for us to choose wisely, we just have to know. We have to know. Knowledge is important. And when knowledge is applied, it is wisdom. But if there's no knowledge, where will we get the application to move to wisdom? And all of that helps us in making wise choices. So, gentlemen, get on that education train and be educated.
Powerful, very powerful and insightful, Drason. I would like to also say, in addition to what Drason said, that education allows for a certain degree of competence and proficiency, which allows one to operate fulfilling one's purpose at the required level, that builds trust in one's ability to share and even to contribute to the development of one's family, one's church, one's society. If I were to just share a little experience, because that's one of the things I am enjoying doing, sharing the struggles that I have had as a person, to let men understand and let people realize that that the process of development is hard work, but it's possible. I was in the doctoral studies at Andrews University and could not type. My nephew used to help me with my typing assignments. My daughter, would help me with my typing assignments, and none of them were available to me. And I said I had to learn this thing. And I began to talk to the guys. Everybody had a computer. I was the only one writing on a notepad. And I told myself I could write faster than them. But every time the notes are given, when I am finished writing, everybody just like they wrote a long time ago. Because I said, but this thing is madness. So I asked a guy, how could you type without even looking at the keyboard? He said, I have to learn it. By the next day, I had learned the keyboard. I wrote down all the keys on a paper and learned them. And I said, well, how you get to know where to put your finger? And he showed me the home keys. Incredibly, by the time that class was finished, I was able to do my assignment myself. Not very proficient, but adequate enough to submit. Today, had I not understood the whole matter of using the computer and typing, how could I have done my work? Everything is now done on the computer. I am now able to type without looking at those keys, simply because of a guy telling me you have to learn the keys, and I was self-taught in that regard. So what I'm simply saying to the gentlemen out there, sometimes it takes hard work. It may be a little uncomfortable, even embarrassing sometimes, but if you know what you want to achieve, go out there and do it. Get it, start whatever the process is. You never know how far it's going to take you, as Drason said. Beyond my wildest dreams, I could never have imagined as a little boy in Tobago that where I would have been today. But thank God for His goodness, and God wants the best for us, and He creates opportunities for us to achieve that. Yeah.
Yes, there are so many benefits in educating oneself, especially as men. I want to get a little bit personal now, guys. Is that okay? Just to get a little bit personal now as we're coming down to the end of our program today. Who or what inspired you to have the desire to continually educate yourself? Did you have a good elder in the church? Did you have a good father figure? Who or what inspired you to have that desire to continually educate yourself?
But I would say Christian education. I started my primary school life in the public system, big school, many children. Your identity. You had to really. You were not sure who you were in a mass of people like that. But then in my church, there was the coming together of the parents and the leaders saying that they would start a Christian school, and that school had like about 20 to 30 or 40 students. I can't remember. I was too small to know how many, but I know that we all knew each other. And in that Seventh Adventist school with just a few children, only two teachers, but we understood that human effort and divine power, are critical components to progress. You just do your best. Just do the best you can. And like I said, being in the same class with my sister, which would not have been possible had I been in the public school, because I was like 2 years older than her. But all the children from 4, 5, 6, and 7, we had post-primary. So I was in the post-primary class and she was in standard 5, and where she came first. And like I said, but the point was, in the Christian education philosophy, that human effort and divine power, there is no limit to what God can do. That's where, for me, it began. And just doing the best you can every day, and God blessing it, and making it productive and making it purposeful. And that was very, very significant for me. And so I have a strong confidence in Christian education as a significant factor in transforming the philosophy and progress of a person in temporal life and in spiritual life, which leads to eternity.
Well, I must say, Honorable Cadique, my journey began very painful. I must say, I always share my story with persons. Persons will look at me now, and I'm sure that a lot of persons will think that this guy had it all so too well. And so he's telling us as men out there to be educated, but he had a good beginning. My beginning wasn't good at all. When I was at primary school, I was very slow. I was extremely slow. I remember the days you have 25 persons in the classroom. I never ever got higher in position than higher than 23rd in the class. I was that slow. Going home with 23% on my report card, 15%, 40%. I don't ever remember ever receiving a 60%. But adding to that, I had some teachers who called me dumb and stupid. I had teachers who actually told me, you might as well just stop school. I had those teachers too. It was very painful, but I used to go home and my mother used to always try to encourage me the little that she can, because she herself, she did not get that much of formal education as well. But it was rough. It was rough. I remember when I graduated from primary school, I went to high school and I was basically placed in the lowest rank in the high school. In the class, I realized that, okay, this class doesn't belong to me, because I was learning things that I just felt was below my level, but I just couldn't learn. It was tough. It was really rough. I couldn't learn. I could not learn. And I remember in the second year of high school, there was this lovely, gentle lady. She was my history teacher, and she said to the class that I want to give you all a quiz. It was going to be on Columbus, and I had loved that chapter. And I went home and I studied that thing inside, outside. I studied, and I came to school with all confidence. And I said, okay, finally, I'll be able to know what it feels like to get a grade that is actually higher than a 60%. And when we got that quiz and I got my paper, I was shattered. I couldn't believe. And so I went home and I hid that paper under my bed. And I remember my mother came to me and asked me for my paper, which I find was very strange. But I forgot that the teacher knew my mother. And so when I gave my mother that paper, I held my head down in shame, because it was embarrassing. It was very embarrassing. I'm telling the young men out there, this was my beginning. It was super embarrassing. And then my mother looked at me and she took that paper in her hand and she said, son, look at this big correct that you have. You know, I'm very proud of you. You know, if you can get some more of these, I will be even happier. You know how much I got on that quiz? I got 1 out of 25. My mother looked beyond the negative that I had on my quiz, and she saw that big correct. And my mother motivated me. She did not know anything about psychology, but she said, son, that correct you have, I'm proud of you. I went to school from then, and my whole lifestyle changed. My mindset changed. Everything about school changed. And I went through the rest of the high school and I graduated with honors. I went further and I graduated with honors. To me, I was going further because I wanted to prove people that they were wrong. I wanted to prove the teachers in my hometown that calling a child stupid and dumb and can't read and all those things, it was wrong. Calling a child dunce, it was wrong. So my quest was to prove people wrong. Until later on in my education journey, I realized, but education should not be about proving others wrong. It should be about developing me so that I can encourage, motivate, inspire, and hopefully develop others. And that is how I started. My mother who encouraged me, who gave me that required push so that I can be who I am today. And so, gentlemen, I am encouraging you. It doesn't matter how rough your start was, it is possible. Education is important. And because I am educated now, all those teachers who call me dumbs and what's not, I'm talking about teachers, not teacher. I don't hate them today. Why? Because my education tells me that I am valuable and I do not bring my level down to anybody's level. I have to be higher and I have to ensure that I maintain myself up there. So that's how I started. It wasn't easy, but that's how I started. And I'm very happy and thankful that God gave me the opportunity to enjoy what I have today.
I'm proud of you, Drason. Proud of you, boy. That's a story. Wow. And I mean, Jason is such a special, and I'm going to tell you, he's held in very, very high regard at the university. and in Trinidad.
Yes, yes, yes. I like to say if you go to USC and you never meet Drason, you need to go to USC again. And it's a problem. You have to meet Drason when you go to USC, or else you haven't gone there. I mean, thank you guys so much for sharing your personal experience. It really touched a chord, and through both of your experiences, you know what it taught me? How important it is for the school and for the home to work together. Based on
Yeah.
Dr. Tobias's report, you see that the school had a major part to play in his development. And with Elder Drason, we see the home, the encouragement from the home, and may I add, even the church. All these three
Yes.
entities need to work
Yes.
together so we can cultivate better men for the home, better men for the church, better men for society, and better men for the kingdom. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I don't know if after that, Drason, specifically, if you have any final words that you want to share with the audience, but I'll give this opportunity now to both of you to share any final words that you have to our men, specifically in helping them to know that, hey, education is important. It's vital for you to educate yourself. Any final words?
I would say, you have to understand your purpose, understand what gifts God has given to you, and keep growing, keep developing. As Drason said, I was a slow developer, late developer. I went to high school at 14 years of age. So don't allow society to squeeze you into its mold. You are a child of God. God bless you. God keep you focused. And with God, all things are possible.
I can quickly say, Cadique, for the gentlemen, just think about it. Just imagine that you're working for a company. You are hired as a sales clerk, and then you move to a directorship position, and then you become the manager. What happened over this span of time? Your roles and responsibilities shifted. Your roles and responsibilities that you knew as a sales clerk will not be the same now that you are a manager. Over a period of time, you go through the process of growth. However, one of the things I want us to understand, while we might grow physically and spiritually and mentally as men, our roles as a man will never change. Our roles as a man will always remain the same. It is not like working in a company. You don't take your roles and pass it on to anybody else. God has given you those roles, and God expects you to uphold and honor those roles that he has given you. That role I'm talking about of being that priest, being that good father, being that provider, and being even that protector. Those are roles that you cannot shift. Those are roles that will never change. And these are roles that can become more meaningful if you are educated. So I encourage you, get on the education train.
Get on the education train. I love that. I love that. Thank you both so much for coming on our program today. Man Enough to be Educated was our topic, and you guys added so much value to this particular topic. We learned so much. We learned that educating yourself is more than getting degrees. It's more than getting your bachelor's, your master's, your doctorate. It entails growth in every regard, the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual faculties growing continually. And because they're growing continually, there is always something to learn. There's always room for improvement. We also learn that there are benefits of educating oneself. You get to enjoy your purpose as a man. You get to become more productive. You have the ability, as Elder Drason said, to make wise choices, wise decisions. And just like Elder Drason and just like Pastor Tobias, being educated can take you places that you never even imagined that you would end up. To God be the glory. We also learned that the home, the church, and the school have a part to play in educating our young men into becoming men of God. You can be educated. You must be educated, because you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. I am your host, Cadique Tittle. I am so grateful that you were here with us today. I'm so grateful that we were able to hear from Elder Drason and Pastor Tobias and grow as men. And until next time when we see each other again, may God continue to richly bless you. Thank you for joining us on our Man Enough program today. You can feel free to contact us via phone at 767-614-2878. Or you can reach us via email at youaremanough@gmail.com. Can a man have fun and still settle down and have a family? Can a man have fun and still be considered spiritual? Can a man have fun and not be considered immature? All these questions will be answered on our next episode of Man Enough. Don't miss it, and may God continue to bless you.